Every road you drive on, every public school, every single hospital, they all start with a rule book. So today, we're going to crack that book open and really understand how your tax money gets spent here in Nepal. I mean, think about it. You pay your taxes, that money goes into a big public pot. But then what? How does it actually turn from just numbers on a spreadsheet into, say, a brand new bridge or new laptops for a school? Where does it go? Well, it all comes down to this one really important law, the Public Procurement Act of 2063. The best way to think about it is like an instruction manual for any and all government shopping. Its whole purpose is to make sure your money is spent the right way, openly, fairly, and without any funny business. All right, so let's start with the big question. Why does this law even exist? I mean, what's the point? This first part really gets to the heart of what the act is trying to achieve and the principles that guide every single rupee of public money. And honestly, this one line from the law's introduction, its preamble, pretty much says it all. The entire goal is to pull government spending out of the back rooms and into the daylight. The words you gotta remember are open, transparent, objective, and reliable. It's all about building trust. And you can see how that big mission breaks down into these clear, practical goals. See, it's not just about getting the cheapest thing possible. It's about getting the best value for the public. And you do that by encouraging competition, making sure everyone gets a fair shot, and just creating a level playing field. At the end of the day, it's a recipe for good governance. Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty of the process, we need to learn the language. This next section is super important because it defines exactly who has to follow these rules and what we even mean when we say procurement. So, first up, the word procurement. It sounds a little formal, right? But it's just the government's official word for buying stuff. Anything and everything. It could be physical goods like medicine, services like hiring an engineer, or huge construction projects like a new highway. And who's doing all this buying? The law calls them a public entity. It's just a catch-all term for any official group that's spending public money. And you might be surprised just how wide that net is cast. Yeah, the reach of this act is massive. We're talking about everyone from the highest courts and central ministries, right down to your local municipality. It also includes state-owned companies and even public universities. Basically, if an organization is spending your tax money, it has to play by these rules, no exceptions. Okay, so we know who the players are. Now, let's look at the really critical groundwork, the stuff that has to happen before a single rupee is spent. This is all about planning, and it's the first line of defense against waste. The Act is super clear on this. You can't just wake up one morning and decide to buy something. A public entity has to do its homework first. They have to spell out exactly what they need, come up with a realistic budget for it, and then put it all into a formal plan. This stops impulsive, bad spending in its tracks. And right here, this is the golden rule of the whole system. The specifications, the description of what's needed, have to be totally neutral. The whole point is to describe the function and the quality you need, not to secretly point towards one specific company or brand. It's all about fair competition. Here's a perfect example. A government office can't just say, we need to buy brand X computers. That's not allowed, because it rigs the game for one company. Instead, they have to say, we need computers with this much processing power, this much memory, and this screen size. That way, any brand that meets those technical needs can throw their hat in the ring. And now for the main event. This is the part we all kind of picture when we think about government contracts, the public tender, the whole bidding process. Let's walk through it. The whole thing follows a very strict, very public timeline. It kicks off with a public announcement inviting companies to bid. Then, those companies put together and submit their proposals in sealed envelopes. At a specific time, all those bids are opened up, right there in public. After that, they're checked to make sure they're complete before finally being evaluated to find the best offer. Every step is out in the open. And get this, fairness is literally baked right into the schedule. For any national level project, the law says companies have to be given at least 30 days from the time the ad is published to get their bid ready. That makes sure everyone has a fair amount of time to put together a serious, well-thought-out proposal. All right, we're in the home stretch. The bids are in, they've been opened and reviewed. So how do they actually pick a winner? Now, this phrase right here is absolutely critical. The winner isn't just the company with the rock-bottom cheapest price. It's the lowest evaluated, substantially responsive bid. And that difference is huge, because it stops the government from getting locked into a deal with someone who's cheap but can't actually do the job right. So, what on earth does substantially responsive mean? Well, it's pretty simple. It just means the bidder has checked all the important boxes. They're a legal, qualified company, their paperwork is all correct, they've put down the required deposit, their offer actually meets all the technical needs, and they've agreed to all the contract rules. If a bid fails on any of these, it's out, no matter how low the price is. So once they find that one bid that hits the sweet spot, a good price from a fully qualified company, that winner gets notified. They then sign a formal, legally binding contract with a public entity, and only then does the actual work start. It makes the whole thing official. So there you have it. The Public Procurement Act gives us this clear, logical, and transparent roadmap for how our money should be spent. The rules are all there, designed to make sure we get fairness, value, and accountability. But a rulebook is only as good as the people who enforce it, which leaves us with one last big question. We have the framework, but how do we make sure it leads to real accountability out there in the real world?